All right, EXPs, what's up? It is 7 o'clock. We are starting on time. I got this technology working and we are live. We are here with Mandee Flanders, Director of Operations at Oxford Marketing. So before we get started, I want to give you guys a chance to say hello. Let us know where you're checking in at, what city you are located in. If you worked for Oxford Marketing before, if you had the pleasure of meeting Miss Wonderful Mandee, let us know your experience with Oxford. Also, drop those comments as well as those questions here for us as well, because we plan to answer all of your questions. The reason why we have Mandee here is that so she could be transparent, be honest, and provide you guys with any and all the feedback that you need to assist you as EXPs. So I have my phone here with my questions, and I'm also going to be checking Facebook Live on my phone as well, just to make sure I'm able to see all of your comments and read any and all questions that you may have. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Mandee, first off, I would just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us tonight on our latest edition of Where Are You? Now, for those of you who don't know, Oxford Marketing won the Agency of the Year award last year for 2018. So it's always great when we can have agencies here to talk about, the other side of our industry. We often talk about the field side and provide resources there, but it's also great to have an agency here that can provide you guys with, I always say, get it from the horse's mouth on the things that you need to do to maintain and obtain opportunities in the experiential marketing industry. So for those of you who may not have worked with Oxford Marketing, who may not know who you are, Mandee, go ahead and just, drop that information for them.
Yeah. So Oxford Marketing is a national staffing agency. We've been around since, I want to say, 2013 or so, 2014. I've been with the company since 2014. We do a lot of sporting events. We have several clients that do a lot of those types of programs. So if you're someone who enjoys being outside, working at sports, big sporting events, that's a big one that we do. We also do some mascot work, street teams, and a lot of like convention and trade show types of events too. So that's just kind of a quick overview on the kind of programs that we staff. And I will say pretty much everything that we staff starts at around 20 an hour. So we'll just get that out here in the get-go. If you're wondering what our rates are like, that is typically our minimum for most programs, depending what they are.
Okay, so what type of programs and positions does Oxford staff for?
I would say primarily, well, I mentioned the mascot. We did a lot of mascot in 2019, a lot of them. We do a lot of brand ambassador positions. And we do have people come to us fairly often and say, do you guys staff for tour managers? Once in a great while, we'll get a request for that. But I will say a lot of our clients staff their tour management teams internally. So we deal with a lot of clients that prefer to onboard them for their own reasons. Sometimes they need to have them on for expense reports or insurance reasons, whatever it may be. A lot of clients staff their tour management internally, and then we staff all of their brand ambassador teams. So from a typical standpoint, we're looking at BA positions, mascot positions, and we do quite a bit of like labor crew roles as well.
Okay, so out of those three positions, what would you say as an EXP is the one in which, how can I say, would be the easiest for them if they're looking to obtain their first opportunity with Oxford? Is there one position that would be easiest for an EXP to get into and then move up to obtain other opportunities with Oxford?
I would say they're all kind of similar because it really depends on the need. Sometimes we get a last minute request for a labor crew with like 2 days notice, and so in that case, it might be easier to get in with us when we have a last minute request, dropped into our email. So in an instance, we're just looking to like hire someone quickly because of the time. And, a brand ambassador position, it could be the same thing. It could be that there's maybe there's a short turnaround time for a specific opportunity. So it might be a little easier to get into that one. But ultimately, no matter what position you are applying for, we're definitely looking for some kind of application that makes you stand out from the rest, because it can be very competitive.
Okay.
It can be easier to get into harder markets that are harder for us to staff. So if you're applying for something in a remote area, it might be a lot easier than if you're applying in a market like Atlanta, for example.
And speaking of markets, what markets do you typically, or does Oxford typically staff in, and what markets are considered those rural markets where you have opportunities that come up all the time, but you're constantly trying to find EXPs to fill those positions?
Most of the programs that we have that are ongoing during the year they're like tours that are traveling, especially the sports events. We do a lot with soccer, especially. So those events are going to pop up kind of everywhere. We definitely have a lot of those in Atlanta, but they also will hit different cities that are more remote. Like we might have something in Wisconsin or in a remote area of Illinois, or like, oh crap, we don't have as many people there. And we have to work really hard to try to get someone to some of those locations. So we definitely do a little bit of, every market, I would say. Probably doing more in cities like New York City, Atlanta, Las Vegas, we do quite a bit. So some of the really major cities, we do have more events, but there's definitely no limit to where we can activate.
And where is Oxford based, like your home market for the I know you work remote, but just what is the home base for Oxford?
We have a couple. We have one in New York, so Bohemia area, and then we have one in Myrtle Beach area.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you guys cover mainly that north and the southeast region as well. Okay, that's good to know. So as far as EXPs, let's go ahead and jump on this topic of resumes and headshots. What does Oxford look for? And also talk a little bit about, because I know you're not the only one that staffs events. So talk a little bit about what your staffing managers, what your account managers or account coordinators may look for when they're looking to hire EXPs.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, we're looking for everything that we requested. So if there's a request out there that we post to social media that says we need a headshot, we need, let's say, your height, for example, for a costume character. If someone applies for a costume character position and they don't include the information like their height and weight for the costume and their measurements, they immediately go to the bottom of the pile. Like something like that is really important. So we're definitely looking for all the requested information, looking for clear photos, not group photos. I'm still seeing a lot of those floating through, but not anything with any kind of like Snapchat cat ears filter. Still see a lot of those too. I will say our more seasoned people know the standards of what we're looking for in headshots and resumes. So I think we see more of that from maybe some of the more, some of the newer people that are just finding these groups on Facebook and they don't necessarily understand that we don't want those types of images, but it's the standard request that you're going to hear from all your agencies. It's a clear headshot. A good like full length body photo is good. It can be an event photo. Candids are good, so we know what you really look like. Right. But yeah, those are a couple of things we're still looking for.
Okay, and as far as resumes, length, long, short resumes, do you like to see if let's talk about the two parts of it. A person that may not have experience in the industry, what do you look for on their resume? And a person who does have experience, who may be applying for like a team lead or management role, what do you look for in those, two types of resumes?
So starting with someone that, let's say, is newer and doesn't have experience, some of the things I look for in those resumes could be an example of their part-time job, for starters. If they're working a part or full-time job that's outside of the industry, like you can include that is totally okay. But if you've done any kind of other work that's some kind of promotional work, if you do promotional work full-time for another company that doesn't necessarily call you a brand ambassador, sometimes that's very relevant. Like what if you go to special events for the company you work for full-time, like stuff like that's very relevant. If you don't have a background in anything like this, just tell us what you do have a background in, because we can always teach you. Some people put like their sporting, like their volunteer experience with sports groups and things like that, sports teams. So anything like that can be relevant. I think just give us what you've got and we'll see if we can roll with it.
Okay, cool. And then for the person that has the experience, so of course your expectations are a little bit different as far as what you expect to see on a resume. What do you look for in that resume from that individual?
Yeah. So someone with experience, I'll tell you one thing that we're not really looking for, and that's a massive list of every promo ever worked.
Okay.
We don't want the whole lengthy list. It's our eyes kind of glaze over like, whoa, that's a lot of text. So make it easy on the eyes for starters. Like if you have some events that you feel are super relevant to the position you're applying for, you can make that text bigger and really show that on your resume so that that's one of the first things that we see. If you think about it when you're reading a blog post, sometimes they pull out these individual quotes throughout the article and they make that in a big block quote.
Yeah.
And you can do something like that on your resume so that we can see immediately what you have on there that's relevant.
Okay.
If you're someone that's applying for a team lead position, but you've never done team lead before, put anything in there that you think might apply to that position. Like if you've done any volunteer work, if you have led groups in any other type of platform, if you have references, we like seeing that you've worked with a certain agency multiple times. So things like that are important too.
And you guys call references like on the spot, call it not on the spot, but if people EXPs put references, you guys take the time to follow up and call them?
It depends on the role,
okay,
and how quickly we're staffing.
Okay.
So I think if you're in a management position, we definitely are looking more to check those. But from a personal standpoint, I always like to know if someone is calling me for a reference. So out of courtesy for that person's reference, I will usually say, hey, we're going to call your references. Is that okay?
Oh,
And
okay.
I do like to give them a heads up, just because if I get random phone calls, sometimes brand ambassadors that I worked with one time that I don't really have a relationship will put me, a relationship with, they'll put me down on their reference list. I'm like, who? Who do you want to reference on? So I do think it's important to at least make sure that someone knows that you're making that phone call. So we do that for more high-end types of positions and for management roles, but we will let you know. Like, I think I even have it set up in our staffing portal where they enter their references. Like, we're not going to call them unless we're hiring you, and we'll tell you first.
Okay. And length, what is the acceptable length of a resume? Well, the unacceptable, like after this, we don't read it. It's just too long. And do you guys like, because a lot of people ask this too, like having a photo on the resume, or do you prefer to have like the photo separate and then, just the resume?
I would say for length, 2 pages is max. That's what we like to see, 1 to 2 pages. Okay. 1 is perfectly acceptable. I think 2 is acceptable. If it gets beyond that, that's probably too long for just a brand ambassador type of position. If it's someone that's looking for a very experienced type of role, that might be something more that they're looking for like a tour management position. Like I said, we don't really staff a lot of those. And from my tour management experience, mine and my husband's, we never did the long resume thing. We always did 1 page, and it worked out very well. So 1 page is really okay. But if you do feel like you need a little more room, I would say up to 2.
Okay.
And then your other question was the photos.
Yeah, on the resume. Like, some people have they have templates where you could put a photo on the resume. Is that something you guys shy away from, or you mind, or you don't mind, or does it matter?
I don't know that it really matters. Okay. I've always put it on mine. And I do the templating for my husband's resume as well. It's always been on his. I like seeing a person. Especially if for some reason I'm not accessing their photos right away or something. It's like, oh, here's a resume and here's their face. So I think that is a nice touch. But I also haven't ever not hired someone because they didn't have a photo on their resume or their resume wasn't super pretty.
Yeah.
So I think if you really want to stand out, make your resume look pretty. Yeah. But it's also not a reason someone has been turned down for a position either.
Okay. EXPs, I hope you're taking notes. Mandy's dropping some gems that you guys need to implement for 2020 on these resumes, because it's important. It could, make or break your opportunities, and
Mhm.
ensure that you're able to maintain and obtain that opportunity with Oxford or any other agency. We've heard it consistently, from Assist Marketing, from Lauren at All Aces, the importance of having a short, concise resume that speaks to your experience and where you are and the opportunity, relevant to the opportunity which you're looking to obtain. So,
Mhm.
talk a little bit about you and your husband's Tim, your experience and your background. So EXPs can kind of see, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about because she's been on the other side. So talk a little bit about that and your background as an EXP.
Yeah. So events and promotions was something that I've had an interest in for a super long time. And before I knew it was an industry, I was trying to sell myself as a trade show hostess because I saw that some people were going to these shows that were local to me and they were sitting behind their table and no one was coming to them because they were just sitting there on their phone the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I was part of this young entrepreneurs convention when I was maybe 19. I was just out of high school, and they brought in a bunch of young entrepreneurs, which included a lot of teenagers. So I had a table set up to another group of these two teenage boys, and they were just sitting there like they didn't really know what to do behind their product that they had developed. I was like, guys, there's someone coming, stand up. So every time someone would come into that room at that convention, I'd be like, get up, guys, they're coming, talk to them. Because they didn't really know what to do. But that was always my mindset, is you always have to recognize people when they're coming through your space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that long before that I knew that promos were even a thing. So once I figured out that they were, I was like, yes, this is perfect. And so I was dating my husband around the same time a couple of years later when I found this industry. And he's like, wait, you're making how much doing what? And so we both just started doing it, and it's developed over time. We started doing tour management together, and now obviously I've been in staffing for several years, but I do still work. I have still worked many events. I've done tours while staffing when I did it part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I mostly am just working with Oxford, but I still fly in and fly out to some jobs with my husband too, more on the production side these days.
Cool. And what do you see as the biggest difference from being in the field and working, as a director and actually staffing EXPs, looking at budgets, looking at RFPs? What,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just take us into the life, your day-to-day life of not being in the field anymore and working now on the corporate or the what's the word I'm looking for? The office side.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned kind of in switching over to this side and getting more and more away from being in the field and being more full-time on this side is that I did not realize how much there was to it. And I started understanding the mindset of people that were in staffing. And I started having a lot more patience for them too, because sometimes you think that something is someone's fault and then you realize there's 5 other parties involved, and it just keeps trickling down from the brand, the client, the staffing agency. Sometimes there's more, the venue, all of this information that you're trying to gather so that you have a successful event and get your brand ambassadors where they're supposed to be and make sure they have their information. It's just so much. It's so much to try to get from all of those different people and into one booking email. So, I feel like I've taken that experience that I've learned from this side, and even with my husband, I'm like, be patient with them. They probably don't have your parking information yet. It's okay. It's still a week away.
They should have it. David, yes. And that leads to my next question, and it's one of the questions I want to ask you. How does an EXP like myself, a tour manager, your husband, tour manager, you've worked on this side. How do we deal with account managers and staffing coordinators who may not be on their P's and Q's, who may not effectively communicate all the time, who can make it hard for us, in the field, when we need things like this? How do we deal with that account manager? What would you say are the best remedies or ways in which we should communicate with that individual to make sure that, both parties, we're mutually happy, we're successfully activating an event, and we're able to iron out any issues, before the client or before it becomes a bigger issue later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think can happen is, first of all, I think there's different personalities in the staffing industry, and there's some people who try it out for a while and they're like, oh, this is not for me. And you might experience one of those people that's in that phase of trying it out and they realize it's not for them. So you're going to encounter different personalities and people that are in different places in life.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing is always take your situation into mind and try to put it into perspective. Like, maybe they are still waiting on that information from their client. It is okay to ask, because I will tell you if the client hasn't told me yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to communicate and just say, hey, I'm just checking in on that information. Want to make sure I'm still good to go. So one thing that I struggle with sometimes is waiting on information from clients. And while I'm waiting on details to send to the staff, every once in a while we have someone that goes, oh, well, I never heard from you again. I didn't think I was booked. And now that's after, keep in mind, that's after we've booked them in on our portal, they confirmed the position, and we never removed them. But sometimes I might book them out a month in advance. Mm-hmm. So they might have that booking several weeks before I actually have the information. So kind of made it a habit now where I'm like, listen, I'm booking you early. Mm-hmm. Just hold the date. You're booked, but it might not be until like 5 days before your activation that you get your info. So I try to communicate that and set that expectation so that they aren't upset and frustrated with it, because we're not trying to upset them or keep information from them. But we also know, here's another thing to keep in mind, is that clients can change things 1,000 times. Yes. So I would much rather send you the information 3 to 5 days before your event and have it be final, instead of be like, oh, sorry, it changed. Oh, it changed again. Because I know that can be just as frustrating as waiting on your info.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just sit on the information for a little bit just to make sure that it actually is accurate. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I need to send. So kind of circling back to your question is, just be patient with us when you're dealing with a lot of clients and a lot of brand ambassadors. You have a lot of really great BAs in your group. But sometimes we're dealing with, staff problems too, where there is a legitimate issue on site that we're trying to fix. So sometimes we just have 1,000 things going on and we'll get to you. We want to get to you. It's not on purpose. So just be patient with us and ask questions, because a lot of us will communicate back to you what's going on. And if someone isn't communicating at all, maybe you just need to make sure you are confirmed and you're booked,
And just walk us quickly. It doesn't have to be long. Like the process with Oxford, as far as once you accepted a position and the time in which you as an EXP have to confirm before you guys move on to the next EXP as the backup or who was chosen, for that position. And yeah, go ahead and answer that again.
No, okay. Typically what will happen, just kind of walking you through quickly step by step, is we will post an opportunity that'll either go to our Facebook profiles or it'll be blasted out via email. It's pretty much always blasted out, at least by email, to our database. Mm-hmm. People will apply. Now, one misconception when you apply, that's you accepting a position, but you're not actually booked until we contact you or you receive a confirmation. So don't assume just because you clicked submit that means you're booked. So I'll put that out there. So you'll submit for the job. Usually what will happen from there is, if you are someone that we work with a lot, we might just book you. We might just hit the button and be like, oh, we know them. We're going to book them right now. They applied 5 minutes ago to go. But typically, if it's someone brand new that we've never worked with before, we're always going to, get them on the phone. We want to talk to that person and see how they communicate, make sure that they're a good fit for the position that they're being hired for. Mm-hmm. And then if there's other requirements, we'll get those at that point as well. But once they're staffed, they'll receive a booking confirmation from the portal. And then a few days before the event, we'll send a final event details email with all their information. And typically that's when, if someone doesn't confirm, they're going to get removed. If they don't confirm their event details, if they don't confirm their pre-event text that we send out, those are all things that we do to make sure that you're good to go. And that's where we try to catch the people who aren't going to show up.
Okay. And we talked about this on the last interview, but what does an EXP do who consistently applies and doesn't get an opportunity, And I know you just talked about the fact that sometimes, if you know the person, they work with you, they have a great rapport, you guys would just go ahead and book them. So how does an EXP who is trying to get in with Oxford but continues to apply and is not getting chosen, what can they do to not get discouraged from applying for future opportunities? What would you suggest that they do to get their foot in the door with Oxford?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things one could do. Number one, if you see that you know someone who works for us a lot, I will make a note if you are a personal referral of somebody. So if you work with someone consistently, they know you have a good reputation, but you haven't yet gotten booked with us, you could just say to your friend, hey, I saw you work with Oxford a lot. Could you put in a good word? That's acceptable. That's okay. And typically what I will do in that situation is I'll go in and note their profile, like so-and-so referred this person. And then when we're looking through applications in the future, I'll be like, oh, they know so-and-so who works for us all the time. They're probably really good. So, but be careful who you refer. I will put that in there. So that's one. You can have a friend refer you. With our staffing system, when you submit on the portal, you can add some application notes. That does make you stand out if you list a short paragraph about why you'd be a good fit. Good photos, make sure your contact info is in there correctly. We run into a lot of phone numbers that are like missing a digit sometimes, and that can really hinder the speed of the process. If you're like, oh, I want to hire this person, but their number's wrong, so I have to email them and get their number. It can kind of drag out the process if we're in a hurry too. So make sure your information is always up to date.
All right. And what is your protocol on once the EXP applies? And someone said, by the way, can every agency use Staff Connect like Oxford? It is so easy. So what do you advise EXPs once they apply for a job in Staff Connect to message you or any other staffing managers on Facebook or send you DMs via Oxford Marketing Instagram? Is that encouraged, or do you guys shy away from like having that be EXP send DMs and PMs? I mean, personal messages.
Yeah, so we typically don't really want that. Some of us use our personal profiles for work. Some of us have like actual like side profiles set up for this, like on Facebook. But usually our posts that we put out and our emails will typically say not to call or email, because what ends up happening is a lot of times is when they'll send those messages or they'll send those emails, they didn't even submit on the portal. So if I'm not checking those messages, I don't know if you applied. We look at the portal first and foremost. So from that perspective, like if we have a really solid relationship with a brand ambassador and they work for us a ton, sometimes we don't really frown upon it if we have a really solid established relationship. But if it's someone that we've only worked with once or twice, or we've never worked with you before, then I'd say don't do the social media thing, because especially if the post says not to, then you've already broken the first rule, which is follow the instructions. So read the instructions, but apply in the portal, because we're always looking there first, and you're going to have more success just applying where we're looking for the applicants.
Okay. Let me read some of these comments. I want to actually read the names. So let me go to my Facebook, go to the group so we can see the names, because I think it's interesting that it's good that we talk about that. Jared Wesley, hello. Worked with Oxford years ago in New York for MillPal, cool app that I still have on my phone. I love my photo resume. People give me flake for it. Lacey Anna said that. Phil said, hey, Mandee. Phil Thurza, worked with Oxford for a bunch. Mandee rocks. Gabby said hello. And yeah, so they talked about Staff Connect. So back to the questions. How can the team at Oxford Marketing maintain, or how has Oxford been able to maintain a professional reputation? Because there's a lot of staffing agencies popping up every day. There's a lot of EXPs, joining the industry and looking for opportunities and ways to begin their career with different agencies. But how has Oxford been able to, for one, maintain and pay at least $20 an hour and keep quality staff? What would you say is, the secret sauce to being able to do all of that?
Yeah. One thing that we like to really hone in on is relationship building. And I think that goes a really long way. Like sending thank you cards. Sometimes we send out gift cards, and we try to recognize people when the clients give them a really awesome review. I just had one like 2 days ago. I had a tour manager text me and be like, hey, this guy was the best labor guy I think I've ever had. I screenshot that and I sent it to that guy because I want him to know we did a really good job. So I think encouragement is a big thing, and making sure that they know that we see them and we appreciate the good job that our brand ambassadors are doing in the field. And that's definitely like our number one, is like, take care of the people, because they are on site with the clients. Most of the time we are not. So we need to make sure that we've got good people in the field and that they know that we believe in them and we want them to succeed. So that's really our number one thing.
Okay. And let's flip it, take it to the other side. What are some pet peeves or some big no's that EXPs can do to get them or to lose opportunities or lose the chance to actually work for Oxford now or in the future?
I guess I could give you like a few things that clients bring to us that said, where they say, we don't really want this person back for this reason and this reason. So one of the things we hear a lot is they were on their phone a lot. They weren't paying attention, or they were just standing there and zoning out, and they weren't paying attention to people and greeting them properly, too quiet. They disappeared on a lot of bathroom breaks. Now, I am not against going to the bathroom when you're at an event at all. So don't anybody be hating on me over bathroom breaks. But when you keep going every 15 minutes, you're not really working and doing your job. So that definitely comes up a lot. And just being on time, being willing to help. People that give a lot of kickback, like, oh, that's not my job. Now listen, I'm trying really hard to give you a good job description beforehand, but sometimes stuff is going to come up on site and I didn't know it was part of the job to tell you ahead of time. So it may not have been in your job description. Now, if it's something like crazy where it like really is bizarre and you shouldn't be doing it, then contact me, contact your staffer, and we'll work through it with the client. But if it's something like, go stand outside for a few minutes and they thought they were going to be inside, like, there needs to be flexibility. And if you're kicking back at the client and you're like, well, I wasn't supposed to do that, you're just showing a lot of unwillingness and that you don't really want to be there. Yeah. So there does need to be a little bit of that flexibility to do stuff. And those people get requested back a lot when they're just willing to just jump in and do what they need to do to help.
And now it's my next question, like, how involved or how detailed are your clients in choosing EXPs for opportunities? Because a lot of EXPs think, the client's not really choosing, the staffing manager's choosing their favorites, or they're choosing the person that they want or that looks, good in the pictures. Do the clients play a big role in staffing your events?
It depends on the client. It depends on the level of involvement that they want and that they ask for. So there are certainly instances where we're doing more of a casting type of role, where we are submitting headshots and we're submitting bios and information. So in that case, the client is making a decision, from that kind of standpoint. Other times they might just be saying, hey, we really like this person in this market. Can you hire them again? And the tour managers, I have a really good relationship with a lot of the tour managers that work for one of our bigger clients. And those guys communicate very well with me. They're like, hey, I loved this person. Bring them back when I'm back next month. Or they'll be like, let's not do that one again. So they're really good about communicating that. Not every client is that way. Not every tour manager is that way. But for those of you guys who are watching that do tour management and your clients are using staffing agencies, like, one thing that the staffing agency will really appreciate, if you're allowed to, is to communicate with them. Like, if you had a rough team, please tell them, instead of just telling the client like, oh, that was a rough team. Sometimes, like, we have no idea because no one tells us. We just find out like way later when we don't get to staff something. Like, oh, that one market was a little rough. So we want to know. So if you're a tour manager and you have the number of the booking coordinator, tell them what's up. Tell them who's good and tell them who's not, because we want to know. I
make a note of doing that and making sure I let the agency know, hey, don't send this, especially if we're in a market for multiple days. don't
Hmm.
send this brand ambassador back out, or don't send this product specialist or this mascot back out, this person, because they did A, B, C, and D. So it's
Hmm.
important, as Mandee said, to communicate those issues if you have the opportunity to have the contact information of the staffing agency, because oftentimes they don't know, and they may not be seeing it till you submit an event recap, and
Hmm.
the client, or the actual experiential marketing agency has, seen it first. So
Yeah.
it's definitely important to communicate those issues. And do you guys have a rating system, like on the back end, where you rate EXPs, or decide or note whether or not to hire them again in the future? So
We do. Yep. Staff Connect has that system built in where there's like a star rating system,
Mhm.
and you can also leave notes. So we definitely are like really big on communicating that across our team so that we're using the good people. So I know what happens sometimes is a brand ambassador will work with one coordinator for a long time, and then they'll get moved over to a new one. And they're like, oh man, this new person isn't hiring me as much anymore, but I loved working with that other
Yeah.
one. So we really try really hard to make sure that we're keeping those people in our circle so that they don't get lost in the cracks. We're putting good notes. So if you're doing great work, we're like, this event, this person was awesome. Use them for anything.
Mm,
So we definitely try to track that. We work really hard to make sure we're thorough across the board.
okay. And let's talk about the moolah aspect of this. Um, $20 an hour. Why did Oxford, or what made Oxford decide to set that standard? And typically, what are your payout times as far as
Mhm.
when EXP works an event?
Mhm. So we do have some every now and then, depending on the client and how big the program is. There's going to be a couple that might fall below that. We haven't had one in a while, but
Mhm.
every once in a while we might have a couple that are more in like the 18 an hour range. But $20 an hour is usually our standard. And the reason we really push for that is because the lower you get, the less quality you get, and the more work I have to do because people are calling out all the time. So we try really hard to keep it at that minimum and do what we can to push for the good rates.
Mhm.
I will say, clients, they're definitely competing with the staffing agencies. They're like, oh well, so and so over here will give me this rate and they'll give me this rate, and so we're definitely feeling that on our side. But we try really hard to only take contracts where we can stay around that $20 an hour pay rates.
Okay.
And we do bring that up when we can, depending on the client and the position, but you can't really go any lower than that. You'd end up losing it unless you get a really good long-term program where that money accumulates. Like, it's too hard. So we try to definitely keep it in that range.
And typically, what is your turnaround time for EXP from confirming and working an event to then submitting all of the necessary event recaps or photos to then receiving their check?
We typically send out our checks by mail within about a week after their event. So we say officially 7 to 10 business days. We all will typically say during like an initial call or interview, like we'll say, give it up to 2 weeks to come in the mail. That's usually the turnaround time, but don't inquire until 3 weeks has passed, just because sometimes there might be a delay in the mail, or maybe a program got paid out a little later than another program. So we don't have like an exact payday every day of the week, though I will say, we're always on there paying people. So
Mhm.
if once the event is done, honestly, like our payroll manager is really fast and she's really efficient. So she's probably on there within 2 days, like trying to get that stuff processed.
Okay.
But officially we say 7 to 10 business days is when we mail the payments out.
Okay, cool. Keisha said, I've always enjoyed working with Oxford. They are a good company and their staff is great as well. She also had a question. Do you ever communicate with the BA if they receive a bad review to get both sides of the story?
It depends on the situation.
Okay.
If a client comes back and says, hey, so-and-so was really late, they were on their phone all the time. Sometimes in instances like that, it can just create more of an issue, I think, to come back and communicate in that case if someone just wasn't doing the job.
Mhm.
But I also know with some people that we've worked with on a regular basis, especially like if I have a relationship with a brand ambassador that we work with a lot and the client comes back with a comment that sounds a little off to me, I will typically go back to that person and be like, hey, can you tell me what happened? I heard something happened. And I'll try to get both sides of the story. And I do that too with if there's a conflict between two brand ambassadors, you really have to know, because no one is going to tell you everything. You're going to hear one side. So you have to take both pieces and be like, okay, how's the best way to handle this given the information that I was provided? And we do try to be fair. I can't promise I will always understand the situation perfectly, but we do try to really take into consideration what happened, what's going down, and we try to be fair.
Okay. Gabrielle Sanjali asked, what makes an EXP an absolute 10 for Oxford Marketing?
Let's see. I think someone who is super engaging, shows up happy to work, shows up a few minutes early. I'm not going to tell you to be there 30 minutes early if it's not on the clock, but as long as you're in the area and you're not lost, calling me at start time saying you can't find parking, that's definitely something that happens. But being in the vicinity at, ready to go right at start time, showing up in the attire that was in the email, that is super important. Mm-hmm. Confirming things. Definitely respond back to us, because if we're texting you to confirm and you haven't confirmed your email or your text, like I know that you're in the field sometimes and it can get really crazy, but usually we don't remove someone until we've been trying to get a hold of them for like a full day or 2 days, like immediately prior to their event. Okay. Make sure you're confirming that stuff. So, and again, be flexible, be willing to jump in, ask the client what you can do to help. They love that. They love it. They eat that up. So just be like, what can I do? Like just do whatever. They're like, okay, hey, you can go pass out t-shirts, so you can hand out flyers. But listen, I don't really like handing out flyers in the hot sun either, but I've done a lot of it.
Yeah, me too.
But if it makes the client happy and they give you a tour after that, then those flyers were worth it.
Yeah.
So just ask what you can do, be willing to help, and be happy.
Okay. All right, Gabby, I hope you took notes. That was a lot of information to take in. So from 2018, in the last time we interviewed you to now, what changes, if any, has Oxford Marketing implemented in a year to their staffing portal, or maybe the way in which you go about hiring EXPs, to your pay, to your hiring process? Has anything changed?
If anything, we're just always trying to make improvements. We're trying to constantly communicate with our staff. I've been spending a lot of time on social media, just like talking, commenting, a lot of time on Instagram, because I think that goes a long way. People want to know that they're being seen. So a lot of communication from that standpoint, and still just making sure that as we continue to grow as a company, mm-hmm. We definitely grew last year. We continue to grow all the time. So we just want to make sure that we aren't losing that reputation that we have of being a good staffing agency and good to our staff and treating them like humans, real people. Mm-hmm. So that's all something that's really important to us. But no like serious drastic changes. The portal, Staff Connect, we're still on Staff Connect. I do think they might be coming out with some upgrades, so we're kind of researching that a little bit to see if that's something worth pursuing and looking into. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd say that's where we've been at in the past year.
Okay. And someone asked, I want to get their name because I like to get people's names when we're speaking. Someone asked, I'm just going to say, what was one of your favorite events you have managed and why? I'm going to get their name while we look. But you can go ahead and answer it.
Yeah, so that could be taken a couple ways. Events that we've managed, like as a staffing agency, and events that I've managed on site.
She said your events.
My event. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So I always tell this story, but my husband and I were tour managers for Team USA for off and on for like 15 months back in 2015 and 2016. Mm-hmm. We did not have brand ambassadors for that tour. It was like super easy, like setting up in an office, doing meet and greets with Olympic athletes. So that was just a really great tour because we got to see a lot of the country. We got to meet a lot of these athletes that are just incredible and have accomplished a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part was I was working out a lot when I was doing this tour. So we're driving this Olympic van across the country. And every time we get out, well, not every time, but whenever we'd get out at rest stops, like I'd have people like, they'd stare at the van that my husband and I were driving. And a few of them would approach us and say, "Are you an Olympian?" And I'm like, "No, but thank you for thinking that." So that's my favorite tour story to tell, is how for a brief period of time people thought maybe I was an athlete.
Well, if you were working out and you had the guns to show for it, then hey, you could pass. I mean, swimmers. There's a lot of people that
It's true.
hey that fit the bill of an Olympic athlete. So you never know. It's just crazy how people come up to you, and even with us doing Home Chef last year. I mean, the little truck, the metro, it was always like the highlight of the tour. People would come to us all the time and talk to us. So it can be a great thing, when you're actually executing these events and you're traveling and people see the
Yeah.
videos.
We
So
got that a lot when we were doing Chevy too, because we were driving the Camaro around. Couldn't even put gas in that thing without getting approached.
yeah, people want you to rev the engine or go fast or do something crazy. So yeah.
Exactly.
Someone say, yeah, that's a cool tour. Sounds like a awesome tour, Mandy. Someone posted and commented on that. So thank you for sharing. And then two, secret shopping. So you stated earlier that you actually go out to events and you still work events. Do you ever secret shop and work, as a BA for Oxford and execute events? And how is that? Um, how is that? Being on that side and secret shopping
Yeah.
piece.
I don't do a ton of secret shopping, mostly because I'm in upstate New York, so I'd have to be in some kind of market where we were activating. But I did get to go to Chicago last year while we were doing several events. I don't remember what the sporting event was that we were activating at. Soccer again, though. And we had a couple of footprints. We had one at a park in Chicago, and we had one like at the train station. So I don't have the info in front of me. I'm not from Chicago, so I don't remember any of the names. But I was visiting Tim on tour, actually, while he was traveling. So I had flown out to be with my husband, and I decided to go visit a couple of our activations. So I just kind of stopped in, and sometimes people recognize me right away because we're connected on social media, and they're like, "Oh my God." And others have no idea. So I'll just go through as like a consumer and have them tell me what's up and see if they know who I am. But I will say everyone did a great job when I went through, and I did tell them who I was after a couple minutes. I checked out all the different stations and all the games they had going on at those footprints in Chicago. And so it was really awesome. But I really do like meeting people in the field when there is an event that I can go to. It's great. So.
And how was their reaction when you told them who you were?
Oh, then everybody just wants to hang out. When it's during the shift. And sometimes I try to bring them some snacks if I can. It really depends on how long I'm there. But, I just want everybody to know, I appreciate their work, and, I want to meet everyone and know their names. And I think that's something we do pretty well at Oxford, is we really do remember people's names. And when people will text me and be like, "I don't know if you remember me," but I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are. I know exactly who you are." So we really do remember a lot of names.
And you got a lot of comments from EXPs talking about how you make it a personal experience, not just another name in a database, but the fact that you take the time to send thank you cards, to come out to the events, to thank them, in person for the job that they're doing. I mean, that speaks volumes. And I, can just speak from experience as well. It means a lot, and it comes from such a great place, and it makes you feel valued. It makes you feel like, the work that you're doing, even though you may have had a bad day or a bad experience with a consumer or a client, to know that the agency has your back and that they are looking out for your best interest as well. It means a lot. And those are the agencies that EXPs always gravitate back to and love working for, because of that appreciation factor. So shouts out to you guys at Oxford. Shouts out to you and all the staffing coordinators and the account managers for honing in and realizing the importance of that. And I think, a lot of that comes from the fact that you and a lot of the account managers have worked in the field. So it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, I truly believe that to get the best reliability in the field is to have a relationship. We don't get cancellations from people that we have good relationships with. We get more of them from people maybe that we've never hired before,
Mm-hmm.
but it's their first time. Maybe they just decide not to work, they get a better job. But the people that we like really have gotten to know, we want to have those relationships with our staff. So I just really believe that the more we get to know people and the more we take care of them, that it really drops our cancellation rate way down.
That's awesome. That's good. And EXPs, you gotta take notes. Canceling, especially, I don't know if you guys have a rule, but 24 hours prior, or even a couple hours prior, is shunned upon a lot in the industry, and definitely with a lot of agencies as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's a true emergency, definitely communicate that. But agencies know, and they know when it may not be, the story or the truth, when you're saying that you might be have double booked yourself, or it's not really an accident or another story. So just always make sure that you are being honest.
Mm-hmm.
So
And we're not going to hold a true emergency against anyone. If you have a real last minute emergency and that's genuine, even if it is a couple hours prior to the event, sure, that's going to create more work and it's going to be harder on our side. But like, if you have something that happened and that's real, then that's not going to be an issue. So when we find that your image of your car accident is on the first page of Google, then it's a problem. I do know how to reverse image search. We're not stupid over here.
See, telling you, they know the game. EXPs, don't try it. Don't try it. So just be mindful of that, EXPs. As I always say, you are a brand within a brand, so you have to represent yourself accordingly. And to be able to maintain consistent opportunities, these things, that Mandee discussed tonight, are tools that you have to implement. So before I let you go, I got two more things I want to discuss. Let's talk about this field kit contest, because EXPs, I have pinned it to the top of the group. Mandee and her team at Oxford put together this awesome brand ambassador kit, and I'm going to let her talk more about it in a few minutes. But hey, you guys need to go ahead and get in on this contest, because she got some great goodies in there. So talk to them a little bit about the inspiration behind that and how they can get involved.
Yeah. Well, as I was telling you before we got, we went live here, I've kind of been in this like social media rabbit hole over the past 2 months or so. And I've just been doing a lot of research, like how we can continue to get our name out there and how we can continue to grow. So we decided to hone in on our Instagram account for starters. And I was like, all right, we need to give something away, because this is how you get like an engaging audience, is you give something good away. You see a lot of like generic giveaways or smaller giveaways that are more of like a $20 value and things like that. And I said, this needs to be good. And we need it to be something that people actually want, something that they will tag their friends for, and something that they're legit going to use and want to have when they receive the package in the mail. Mm-hmm. So I did a lot of thinking. Took me a couple days to come up with it, but I was like, oh, what if we do like a BA starter kit? We're calling it a field kit because it's stuff you take out in the field. It's not necessarily for beginners and starters. So we went with field kit, but originally the idea was a BA starter kit. Mm-hmm. So what is something that everybody needs when they go out in the fields? Some of those items are sunscreen, hand sanitizer, breath mints, because you can't chew gum most of the time with the different clients that you're representing. Mm-hmm. Collapsible water bottle, that's one. And I love this one, clear event bag. I'm sure a lot of our professional EXPs here have gone into events like sporting events, golf events, stadium events with football. They have very strict bag policies, but you're like, oh man, I still need to bring some of my stuff in. Like, what if I need to change out of, into my branded shirt and I need my other shirt in my bag? So you still sometimes need a bag. Yeah. So we're including a clear event bag that is stadium approved. I think that's a big one. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of gift cards in there. And of course, your book is included in the prize package. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we've got
pulling
a
it
pretty good
up.
bundle.
You got some snacks, first aid kit,
Oh yeah, there's more.
water bottle. I mean, she got the whole hookup EXPs. I mean, everything you need
Do you
to.
want to see it? I have it sitting in here.
It says, let us
Okay.
see it.
Okay. 1 second. Let me grab the bag. I'm going to show you.
So while she gets that EXPs, definitely Mandee and the team at Oxford just released this contest today. To enter, you have to follow them on Instagram at Oxford Staff, like the post, and also tag 2 other brand ambassadors or EXPs in this post as well, so they could be entered for the giveaway. So go ahead. Yeah, let's see the goodie bag.
Okay. I've got it all stuffed in the bag right now, so I'll dig into it. But this is the clear bag. It's got a shoulder strap and handles. So if you want to just carry it in like this, you can just carry it into your event. Let's see what we got in here. I said to our team at Oxford after I bought all this stuff, it's like, this stuff is so good, I don't want to give it away.
That's a good value. I would say what, almost $100, maybe close to.
Yeah, I estimated around 75. I'd have to go back and look at the exact value, but got our collapsible water bottle.
Oh, that's smart. How many is that?
Yeah.
What color is it?
This one is gray.
Okay, cool.
So I have to figure out what way to hold it with this camera. Got a couple snacks that I like in here. I just thought they might be a good fit. Now, if you have allergies, let me know. We'll get something figured out. But we've got some Lenny and Larry protein cookies.
Yes.
Those are pretty good. I've been very addicted to those on tour.
Yes.
Got some fruit snacks. Also very good. I bought one for myself when I bought this one to put in the kit, and then I ran out and I was like, maybe I'll eat the one that's in the kit and just replenish it later before I mail it out, because those are really good.
And they look organic.
They are.
Yeah.
They're super good. What else do we have for snacks? I do have some meat sticks in here. Hopefully you're not vegan. I put a little something in here for everybody. If you don't eat it, you can give it to a friend. Got the first aid kits and all of these goodies here. Chapstick, sunscreen. Yes. So hand sanitizer in here. And then of course our gift cards. So let's talk about these for a second. We've got $5 gift card to Starbucks if you want to get caffeinated before you go to your promo, and a $25 Visa card.
Gas,
khaki pants, gas, whatever you might need. I don't care what you spend it on, but we were thinking at least we'd say khaki pants or gas to keep it promo oriented, but you can use it on whatever. So it works anywhere that Visa's accepted. So, and then finally,
the ultimate guide to help you begin your career or excel as an EXP. So that is awesome. I'm so glad you guys took the time to put that together. EXPs are like dope. I hope I win. Unrelated, but Mandee, you look gorgeous, queen. I gotta see who said that. I gotta look at the comments. And then somebody said, wow, this bag is awesome. So
I love this bag. I think I'm gonna go back on Amazon and order this event bag by itself, just because I think it's great to have. So if you don't win and you want one, it was like $10 on Amazon.
So what is the deadline? What is, I didn't read the whole post.
January 31st, which I think is Friday. I'm checking. Yep. So Friday by midnight Eastern. Ooh. So officially 11:59 p.m. Eastern time on Friday night. Okay. And I'll announce the winner sometime on Saturday.
Okay, cool. How will you guys announce it? Instagram, or will you go do a live video? Like, maybe you haven't decided yet, but do you have any plans yet?
It's still up in the air. I think we'll probably announce the winner first, just to make sure that they're responsive and they accept the prize. And then we can do like an official announcement once that person has been like, oh yeah, I won, I'll take it.
So EXPs, make sure you guys are checking your social medias, checking Oxford Marketing. Saturday, you'll probably be working an event. Don't be on your phone checking. You know, if you on break, definitely take that time, but don't have any issues with your phone with the clients. But definitely, you know, check periodically to see if you were the lucky winner of that bag. And hopefully, you know, I think it's gonna go over well with EXPs, and you guys will have some other cool giveaways later on as well.
Yeah.
But thank you for putting that together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we get someone who has been wanting to read your book too. Get a
Yes.
copy. If you've already read it or you already have it, I'm sure you can find a brand ambassador friend to pass it on to.
Yes, definitely pass it along. It'll help someone else on their journey in the industry. So thank you guys for putting that together. So before I let you go, let EXPs know the best way to sign up with Oxford Marketing, and what I know we talked about resumes and headshots, but what is the basic pieces of information that they need to sign up in Staff Connect?
Yeah. So if you're looking to get registered with us, if you haven't yet, you can just go to our main website. It's oxfordmarketingus.com. There's a link on there. There's a couple places you can click that'll get you to the portal to start your registration. But to make it easy, you can just click jobs, or you can click the one that says staff registration. There's, like I said, 2 different places. It'll take you to a sign up page for the portal. You can get registered there. I do recommend for this particular system, I think it's a little more friendly from a desktop browser.
Okay.
That is another reason we're looking at the upgrade that Staff Connect is coming out with and seeing if we want to go through that whole merge over to the upgrade. That might get a little easier on mobile if we do that, but nothing official yet. But I will say for now, where it stands, as of January 2020, use your desktop to sign up. It's just easier to see everything and register. So, but once you submit your information and your profile, it goes into a queue where we can approve you. So just make sure that you're putting everything in there. You're putting good pictures in. You're putting everything in that it's prompting for, so that your profile looks good. So when we look at you, we're like, okay, approved.
And notification wise, will they receive notifications for jobs in their area via email or text, or how would that work once they're approved?
Via email. We don't really do a lot of text alerts right now, unless we're individually texting someone like by hand to tell them there's a job. So email alerts for sure. So you can check off up to 15 regions where you would like to work. We don't do more than that. I'm pretty sure 15 is the maximum. So definitely choose your top ones from there. If you're interested in another region, you could always uncheck one and then check another to see if a job shows up. One of the questions we get a lot, especially from the comments on the homepage of our portal, is, oh, I don't see any jobs. Like, is my profile not active? Well, that probably means that there's no job in the regions that you've selected. We have events going on all the time. So on our side, we see a big calendar constantly. But if you don't see any jobs, that just means that there's nothing that's been added for the regions that you've selected. So you could play around with those, see if something else shows up, see what's around. But that's the question. So I guess that's a good thing to point out. That comes up a lot.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. EXPs, I hope you're taking notes. And if you have any questions or issues with the portal, or just in general, where should they reach out? Is there an email you guys have?
They can send an inquiry through the website. That's probably the easiest because we try to monitor those. So Staff Connect is a third party. It's not always going to be perfect. Sometimes it's not always perfect for us either, as is any app that you use with any platform. But for the most part, it works pretty well. So if you have any issues, I can always forward it to the tech team over at Staff Connect and see if we can troubleshoot. But sometimes it's just a matter of refreshing and trying later, because something might just not be working at that present moment, and it might be fine in a little bit.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right, EXPs. Thank you so much, Mandee, for taking the time to do this pop-up interview with me tonight to let us know, okay, like, where are you? What's going on? How has Oxford evolved in the past year? I definitely appreciate your time. I am going to keep the actual contest pinned to the top of the group. So EXPs, definitely make sure you go ahead, like Oxford Marketing, follow all the contest directions that are going to be pinned to the top of the group. I'm going to leave it up there until the contest is over on Saturday. So you got 4 days, no excuses. It's going to be in the group to, go ahead and participate in that contest and win that cool brand ambassador or field kit bag that Mandee and the team put together. And I'm also going to drop the website in the comments as well. So EXPs, if you want to sign up, one EXP said they're online now filling out the portal, filling out their information in the portal. So for any EXPs who may not have worked with Oxford, definitely this is your chance to go ahead and sign up and get in that queue so you can get your profile approved. Because I know me and Mandy were talking prior, they have a lot of events coming up this year. So you want to make sure that your profile is good to go and you're ready.
Absolutely.
All right. So any last words, Miss Mandy, before we get off of here?
No, I'll catch up on everybody's comments when we sign off for the day. But if anyone's got any questions, just look us up. We're very accessible by social media on our Oxford profiles. So you can find our Facebook page, Oxford Marketing, and then our Instagram is at Oxford Staff. So if you want to connect with us on one of those, definitely look us up from there. And, hopefully we get to work with you guys soon.
Yay! All right, EXPs, have a great night. Remember, you guys are a brand within a brand. Represent yourself accordingly. And again, special thanks to Mandy for taking the time to do this interview. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.